Hi, love. Welcome to Rambles, Rants, Reviews. Um, episode, I forget. It's been a minute. I wanted to talk about names. Um, I put a lot of thought into the name that I'm currently using, which is Delta. And a lot of that is, I just wanted a short D name. Um, and yeah, but I was very blessed to have my mom decide that um, if I had boy parts when I was born, I would be given a very I don't know, not ungendered, but like I know more people who are female with my name than I know male people. It's pretty close. It's like 50-50 almost. But I think I know like two more female people with my name than I do male. Um, and I'm not going to say it, but it's probably going to be pretty clear what it is without doing much work. So, my name that my mother decided to give me means um, divine or poet, which is so pretentious. Um, Admittedly, poet essentially means creator, which is where the divine comes in. The two kind of intersect as creator is could very well be divine, and poet is someone who creates. Um, but yeah, I like the creator. It's something that I still aspire to, rather than actually accomplish. I think, but anyway, if I had been born with female parts, my name would have been Jasmine, um, which is very gendered. um, but and it means a lot of things. Beauty, purity, um, gift from God. Uh, and I realize that, your name is not you. You get represented by your name and you are who you are. But I get stuck on etymology so much about everything. Um, so it matters to me. And I don't know if it matters to you, but if it does, you know, be who you want to be. I chose Delta again for a lot of reasons. I would go by D, but it's just kind of too short. And in the context of the internet, it has some connotations I don't necessarily want to use all the time. Uh, so there's that. But Delta also means change, in addition to just being a letter. And I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. So I think it's appropriate. Don't know where that quote's from, but hopefully someone who originally said it was profound and meaningful and not just some garbage person on the internet. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about some songs related to names. And I'm going to start off with Not Entirely Alone by the Narcissist Cookbook because it's a good tie in. Because if I was named Jasmine or Matthew, my name would mean very similar thing. So let's play a little bit of that.
And your name is a two-syllable word meaning gift from God. Did you know that? Now, I wouldn't know God from Eve, myself. I don't know anyone that has, so I can't vouch for her gift giving abilities. Maybe she put a lot of thought into you, or maybe you were something she picked up in the 24-hour petrol station at the last minute on the way to the party. Maybe she supplemented you with a couple of bottles of cheap white wine and accidentally on
That,
purpose left one of the
that's
bottles
the
in
meaning
the
on
car.
Josslyn.
Or maybe she made you herself in her spare time out of glitter and clay and leftover scraps of dying stars. Maybe she didn't name you at all. Your name just was an observation and a statement of fact. Here they are, a gift from God. Now, I don't know you, gift from God, but I don't need to know you to know that I trust you, and I think we would do well to stick together. Because
That was Not Entirely Alone by the Narcissist Cookbook, which I love all their stuff for sure. But I definitely vibe with the feeling of it for sure. Um, again, you know, the meaning of your name should not be important, but it kind of is. It is to me. And, I think people who do decide to change their name, I support you 100%. And I think, if um, I was given my dad's name, if I was just going to be Dave Jr., I would have changed my name because but that's a whole mess of worms that I don't know, I would never feel comfortable with, I don't think. Um, anyway, song number two.
Don't you see, this is what you're gonna be? Look at me, you're more than free. There's no such thing as destiny. You choose what you wanna be, but this ain't all that hard, believe me. The kind of kid the world doesn't know what to do with, but look here in the mirror, and just so that I am clear, Josslyn, you're really in for it now. Cause your blood has slit your red away, no wonder how. Josslyn.
Josslyn, spelled Josslyn by Chase Petra. Um, it is definitely a gender neutral name. It is significantly used more commonly for females today. Um, but there's a lot of different spellings of it, and it is traditionally a male name. But less me wanting to talk about Josslyn, and one, I just love that song, and two, Chase Petra. So, what's in a name? So, um, the story of how they came to their name for the band is, they were talking and they were like standing in front of a Chase bank. Obviously, Chase has a whole lot of meanings, um, but that's what kind of came to mind. And they were talking with people, and they're like, "No, Chase is too short. You need a longer name." So the second half of the name is Petra, which was a reference to a character in Ender's Game, which really good book, um, really good series. Honestly, I really enjoy Ender's Game. I don't know how I feel about the movie. I do appreciate it, and I think it is probably my favorite war movie. But I think that's because it's the only war movie that I know of that portrays war both in a realistic way and like there isn't really any positive depiction of war anywhere in the movie. Um, even in like the darker, grittier war movies, there is kind of like this camaraderie, there's a feeling of, I don't know. It kind of feels, like a sports movie where you're rooting for the main characters and like you get very involved in it. And while it might not be supporting war, it still is kind of a positive portrayal of it. And due to the nature of the story of Ender's Game, that never happens. Which again, more personal preference that I have so much trouble getting into war movies. No matter what perspective they're told from. Like if it is set during a war, I have trouble getting into it. Um, I generally avoid darker media in general. Generally avoid in general. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so it's good, and I think despite the more or less random origin of it, it is a great representation of what the band became. And a lot of that is partially because of um, what Petra represented, and how they were kind of um, a representation of gender nonconforming. And so, third song is going to be "By Name" by Madilyn May, or rather, Elio. I probably butchered that anyway.
Why should I have to try to fit inside your box? Fit inside your box. Fit inside your box. I am a soul. I'm not a body or name, but Elio would be my choice if I could change. I'd still be the same. Oh, except my name would resonate. My name, my name, my name.
I really like all of that album for very obvious reasons if you listen to it. Um, but no, they do an amazing job. So yeah. And I think I kind of wanted to get here and talk about names to get to talking about pronouns and how they stress people out. So, um, there's a lot of things going on there, but I think when I came out to my wife as non-binary, the thing that stressed her out the most was that she was not going to remember the right thing, and she was going to then feel like the biggest butt. um, which personally, I am cool with any pronouns. Any pronouns. Obviously, that's not the case for everybody. Um, I kind of live in a flux between um, somewhat male and androgynous and hyper feminine. Oh, but you know that's where I'm at. But you can call me he, she, they. Preferably don't call me a sign. Um, I don't like it. Um, but I mean, I'm not gonna be offended. It's just free choice. Um, Obviously, I wear my little robot earring quite frequently, which it would be perfectly fine for. But I don't know. It's dehumanizing, and some people really like it. Um, and there's some people who don't want to feel human, and I can relate to that. But that's not me anyway. But yeah, he she or they it is kind of, I will be offended. I prefer not to use sir or ma'am. Um, Mr. or Mrs. Miss. I guess I'm married. It would be Mrs. It's weird. Um, yeah, it's weird. I do like mix a little bit better if we have to be formal. You can call me Mix Delta. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I like it better, Mister or Miss Delta. But I don't know. Just don't be formal. I'm not formal. Um, it's awkward for me to be in formal situations in general because I just claim up. So um, unless you just want the whole video of me just like, mm, probably don't be formal. Anyway, so pronouns. You know, if you don't know, just use their name. And if you are afraid you're gonna forget, just use their name. Everybody likes to hear their name. Um, it makes people feel important because they are. And you using their name actively is going to make them feel better, even if they are the most cis person in the world. So if you don't know, um, ask. It's not going to offend anybody. Um, I say that. There are people who it would offend, but if you are in doubt, use their name. And then if they want you to know, they will tell you their pronouns. Otherwise, use their name if you're not sure. Again, if it's someone who's going to want you to use different pronouns, they are not going to mind if you ask them what their pronouns are. It is going to make them feel cared for. But yeah, so I have a song for this as well. Billy's getting hungry. Um, you hear her in the background. She's noisy. Little girl, you have to wait like another 30 minutes. It is not time yet. It is not time yet. She disagrees. I'll be back.
Hot seat, and everybody wants to box me. If I'm feeling accepted, comfy and safe, I'll say it's been a while, nice to see ya. There's something I've been meaning to say. No, I'm okay. No, I'm okay. And now I go by this. No big deal, I'm me now. I understand if you make mistakes. It's all okay. I'm still the same. But now I go by this.
Yeah. Which exactly, if they feel comfortable with you, they will let you know what their pronouns are, and yeah. And if you get it wrong, you're not going to be offended. We're going to understand. It's a thing. Um, I mess up pronouns a lot. One more song. Which I don't know if I've talked about this one on here or not. I'm sure I have. It is not called Babylon. No, it is called Gendering Teddy. They
The Babylonians developed the first written numerical system back in 3400 BC.
his lyrics, which is adorable.
Their system was base 60,
60.
which we still use today for telling time. But for everything else, we ditched that in favor of the base 10 system, which the Egyptians came up with a few hundred years later. And this was rounded out by a notation for 0, courtesy of the Mayans a couple of hundred years after that, giving us the numbers 0 through 9, upon which is built our entire mathematical architecture. Now, before this, it's not like humans didn't have a concept of numbers any more than we didn't have a concept of time before clocks were invented. We've understood natural numbers just fine since before recorded history. It's easy to understand, after all, that if you have one chicken and your neighbor has 2, that they have more chickens than you do. And it's just as easy to show someone that 1 + 2 = 3 because we can see our chicken, we can see their 2 chickens, and then as if by magic, oh no, now we have 3 bloodstained chickens. This is simple and observable mathematics. We didn't need language to make sense of this. Beyond this, though, things get abstract and theoretical really fucking fast, and I'm not even talking astrophysics here. Just getting into numbers larger than 60 or 100 poses serious problems in a world where you don't often have 60 or 100 of anything. And inevitably, somewhere adrift in the abyss of history is the first human who faced the challenge of trying to describe the concept of 1 million to a poor friend who was understandably less interested in a number with no practical application than they were in society's state-of-the-art advances in avoiding being eaten by fucking lions. But in this one person's brain was an idea of a number bigger than anyone had counted. Something that they knew was real, that they knew was out there, but which they couldn't hold up and show anyone, which they couldn't even clearly explain because the language had not been developed yet.
Sorry,
and if, as has been theorized,
10,
our species'
10.
intelligence is intimately tied to our capacity for language, then an abstract
10.
concept without a word attached to it, well,
10.
it might as well not even exist.
So that's just with me knowing about 27. No, that works.
When I was born, I was given a teddy bear that I called Teddy because some days you just phone it in. And I took Teddy with me everywhere. And one day when I was around 4, my mum and I were getting ready to go out. And mum asked, "Where's Teddy?" And I said, "Upstairs." And mum said, "Well, go and get him then, we're leaving." And I remember feeling jarred by this. It was an unfamiliar, visceral feeling, powerful enough for me still to be processing it way, way in the background 30 years later. I said, "Teddy's not him." And mum said, "Oh, her then." And I said, "No, that's still not right." Teddy's not her either, I said. Struggling to find a word for what I knew Teddy was, a word that I felt must exist because on a purely conceptual level, I could imagine it. And because my experience thus far had been to point at something and ask what it is, and to be told, "Oh, that's a table, that's a chair, that's a deactivated exploder for a Mark 10 torpedo." And I just assumed, naturally, that in my 4 long years on the planet, I had yet to come across the word for when something doesn't quite fit in to the girl box or the boy box, but what did I know? Now I know. Teddy is actually, I still have them. They're sitting in the next room as I record this. Teddy is just clumps of fluff stuffed into a furry bag. There isn't any objective truth to be found as to whether Teddy is a girl or a boy or something else, but that's not the point. The point is that this is one of my earliest memories. This, not skinning my knee or losing my mum in the supermarket, is what has stuck with me. When I was 4 years old, before I had any exposure to anyone beyond the gender binary, in real life or in books or on TV, before I even had a concept of what it might mean socially and politically, gendering Teddy felt like it went against something tangible that apparently only I could see. This is why I have so little patience for people who smirk and say that we don't need new words to describe gender. The reason that these people constantly belittle and undermine the words that trans and non-binary people use to describe themselves and the world around them is not because the words are meaningless. is because these people know fine well that words are powerful and dangerous. And they know that their last hope of stalling progress is preventing people from having access to language that validates and vindicates their experience. Not to mention the frankly fucking ludicrous idea that new words somehow erase their identity rather than give them a deeper sense of understanding of it. And the notion that it is somehow unnatural to invent new words for things, as if that hasn't been one of the leading preoccupations of humanity for the past 6,000 years at least. We are trying to do something that cannot be accomplished without a new language. Without it, the concepts that make up vital parts of our identities are formless and amorphous. Without it, it becomes impossible to build support networks or communities, or to be taken seriously when your rights are being violated, or to tell the people you love who you actually are, or to even recognize yourself in the fucking mirror. Ugh. And that lonely early human who struggled to explain the concept of a million. If they could, maybe they would have said, you know what, you're right. We don't need a formal numerical system to know that 1 + 2 = 3, but we will need one to build a worldwide communication network, to point telescopes into the darkest parts of space, to plunge with no regard for our own safety into the deepest parts of the sea. Maybe some of you think it is unnecessary, even dangerous, to be coming up with new words like this, and in the process validating things that you don't believe in, things that you can't see. But for me, I can't see it as anything except progress. New words are new tools, which can be used to build a marginally better world right now. And maybe many thousands of years in the future, these new tools that we drop and break and wield clumsily will be used in ways that we can't even conceive of today, to build miraculous, unimaginable structures, with our distant descendants standing atop them, being the people that we always wanted to be.
Woo. Anyway, I don't know if I need the whole 8 minutes and 10 seconds, but I cannot put it that eloquently. Words are important, and I get stuck on millions of words, and I'm so glad that I grew up with English, which is a language that does not gender adjectives. Obviously, there are a whole bunch of things that this is okay for men, and this is okay for women, and this is okay for everybody. But, you know, it's not a situation of like kitchen being feminine and then office being masculine and you having to deal with that. Not that that's an adjective, but you know what I mean. There are languages that everything is gendered. And then I don't know. Like I feel like there's so much pressure to be one certain thing, and it is easy to get stuck on that. And I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that as much as some other languages do. Obviously, there's better languages than English where it's even more just neutral across the board. I don't know enough about that to talk about it, so I'm not gonna. Other than, I mean, good for you guys. Anyway, so if someone does feel comfortable enough with you to tell you what their pronouns are, and they want to be a Caesar, respect that. Like, it's I don't know, it's them not feeling comfortable in what they were assigned, and it's how they are finding themselves. And I don't know what the equivalent Caesar Zim is. I guess it's probably Zim. I don't know. So again, I'm not great at it, but I really only interact with people on the internet and myself. So it does take practice. And if you mess it up, that's okay. Just respect it. Yeah. I got everything in there I wanted. I don't think I talked about baby books because I wanted to. And how I guess gender reveal parties and how I hate it as someone who is not comfortable with being pushed into a box and then you know hey, we're having a boy, get us all boy gifts. Like, I hate this. Um, I really do. Looked at me and said, what a good boy, what a smart boy, what a strong boy. When you were born, they looked at you and said, what a good girl, what a smart girl, what a pretty girl. Got these chains hanging around our necks. Rules with them before we take our first breath. Afraid of change, afraid of staying the same. When time calls, we just look away. Um, so yeah, that's What a Good Boy by Barenaked Ladies. And I don't get it. I don't know why we feel compelled to do that. Like, I mean, yeah, it's great to, want your child to be good and smart and strong and pretty. All of those things are good. But, like, just that they have a bit on a test does not mean that you need to restructure their life and their clothing and their room and everything about it. Like, I, it shouldn't matter. Um, but it does. And I don't think there's a place you can be where it does not matter. But I hope that that changes, and I hope that there are more baby showers that don't include that. That it's not a factor. Just give me more diapers. That's what I need anyway. Um, I don't know. Is that a hot take? Should I be concerned about all of the diapers polluting the world? Give me more cloth diapers? Oh, babies are so gross. So gross. I don't want to have to wash that out. Like, I get it. You probably should, but ew. Anyway, um, so boxes. Yeah, they're useful sometimes. It's nice to know that other people have your interest. You boxes are good when you choose that this fits you. When you don't get to choose, it's not great. Anyway, all of the loves, and I think you're amazing. And be you.